I knew Spirit always wanted me to and had encouraged me to. But again, the human egotistical mind sometimes is a big block for us all. And when I did, it's just everything just started to align. The right people showed up, the right conversations. I never looked for things out in life; they just come to me.
In this space, very rarely do I come across someone that has such deep roots in ancient indigenous practices that really emanate as a resonance before we've even spoken. And you, my friend, are an example of that ancient path. What is it that made it clear to you that this was your calling?
Hmm. Well, I think to answer that question, I might answer it with another question, if that makes sense. What didn't make it? Everything. There was not one thing. There was like many things. And I feel like when, Spirit is guiding each of us to our purpose, we may be resistant, and I have been throughout my life. Trust me, even stepping into this work as a spirit talker, as some people may know as a psychic medium, that it's not something that I ran to. Fresh out of high school, going, I'm going to be a psychic medium. I never thought that ever. But Spirit sometimes has a plan for us, and it kind of unfolds, and it's a multitude of things that kind of like happened through my life that kind of brought me to this understanding and experience. And it started like from the moment that I first took my first breath. I'm sure, because to give you a backstory, I started in this world as a spirit. I started from the other side, but I remember from what my mom told me in the stories of me being born. When I was born, I was cold blue. Like I was not actually alive when I came out of my mother's womb, and they had to race me off to resuscitate me, bring me back to the physical. I apparently had thought maybe I'll just hang out in the spirit world just for a tiny bit longer for a step into this body. And so maybe it helped me remember a little bit that connection. And from a very young age, having like, people that they would say imaginary friends, right? But I now know as spirit guides or spiritual, ancestors that have been guiding me throughout my life to walk in this path that I've been. And I've explored and gone out there to kind of understand the deeper meaning and connection to spirit in my own kind of like explorations. But I also been guided, from my guides, my ancestors, physical and non-physical beings. And I think it's amazing because I've had such a profound experience and journey. I don't know how anyone that have gone the path that I had through life would not be the person I am today. It was almost like it was written out in some type of like Sanskrit code somewhere in the other side in the Akashic records. And it just kind of like all unfolded as such. And trust me, I drug my heels and dug my fingers in. I was like fighting it for most of my life. And even when I started doing this work, as a spirit talker, psychic medium. Now, like I have a TV show in Canada called Spirit Talker, which is available to watch on, I think it's Next Level Soul TV. You can watch it on Fossum, I think season one's on. And I think season 5 is coming out next week, actually, which is the final season of Spirit Talker. But I would have not had any of these things if I not stepped fully into what I believe was this person that I am. And I really had to kind of embody that and allow it. And like I said, I was resistant. There's many times that I was doing this work throughout life, and just because of life situations and stuff that we all go through, I stepped away from it. I stepped away from spiritual work and such because I had it so ingrained in, let's say, a little bit of brainwashing in a sense from like society that you had to have a job 9 to 5, get your benefits, and you can't leave those things. These are things that are so needed to raise a family, to live a good life, etc. And it's something that my mom had like really drilled into me because that's, she's a subject to the same level of thinking that was taught to her. And, even though I was doing this work for some time in my 20s, in my 30s and early 40s, I started to get injured and I couldn't do the work that I did anymore. Because I was like, I made office furniture for like 18 years. I was a mailman for like 8 years. I did all kinds of things. It doesn't mean that I wasn't working in the background, as a spirit talker, as a psychic medium, and becoming an author with Hay House and a TV show host and a teacher, etc. I was doing all these things, or the development of this was all kind of unfolding. But still, it required like a knee injury that I had to have 2 knee surgeries and a back injury that said, okay, I can't do that work anymore. And so, which really kind of led me to saying, hey, I'm going to embrace this fully. And I have, and so many other things have unfolded because of that.
It's interesting, your confession of apprehension and resistance, which seems to be, the biggest spiritual bang over the head epiphany that anyone that truly surrenders to complete holy emanation, which is really what we refer to as a divinity, a stream, a unification, something that would be beyond what we refer to as a mundane version. And then the evidence comes through your ability to transcend that as some type of communication, where someone can make sense of their own journey through their relationship with you. It always seems to be that way. It's like, over here, no, over here. I don't want to accept. I really don't want to accept this. Hang on. It's been, X amount of years, 4,000 events. Have you come up with the idea maybe you were meant to really immerse yourself in this?
Yes, absolutely. And, we're human, the human condition, and life is, it's hard sometimes depending on your view and your scope and what you're dealing with, etc. But, I think that there's an enlightenment, let's say, or an unfoldment. There's an awakening to the greater truth of who we are throughout our life. And then when we understand that, and we feel, we kind of come to the understanding of how can we serve, how can we be of service to help the world become greater or better or more enlighten themselves, and to maybe learn old ways in modern times. And I think it's amazing that I signed up for all this. I did. I did. Apparently, we all signed up for some stuff, not all good stuff either, and that's okay. That's actually exactly what we needed to kind of like, they say like a statue is like you got to chisel away all the stuff that it isn't to create the statue, because we all have so much stuff that we're clinging to that isn't really us. So as we chisel away at it through our experiences and expression through life, it becomes us, and we start to see us greater. And then when we start to see that kind of picture of that greater picture of who we are, then it's like you become excited. You feel joy. You feel a peace, a sense of connection. It's like you become the art that you've always had envisioned yourself to be in the spirit world. And many, I do believe that we live many lifetimes too. And I don't think that all things are meant to unfold in one lifetime for some people. And that's okay too, because that's still part of the great tapestry, let's say, of who we each are is a evolution of the human, or not even human, the spirit itself.
Yeah, within the Taoist path, it's the symbiosis, the tango between two divisive instruments that ultimately come from the same stream, yin and yang, and being able to use that lens as a kaleidoscope, and then ultimately those colors form as one. And that's when you have that epiphany, your path, your righteous path, your rite of passage comes through, and you're able to really show material states as really an illusion. And I think that mediumship and psychic abilities that you have come to be familiar with, and through your own admission, sharing that you believe in past lives, so do I. I've done this thousands of times. It becomes very clear that this is so much more than what it seems to be from a material state. Yet the dance is always the same. Like I had this conversation many times with JC. People refer to him as Jesus Christ. Whenever I come across him in the field of anyone that I'm using as I am a purpose of their own divinity, by using me as a catalyst to remember that, I always have that conversation. Well, it's a similar path. It's the extreme and excess, the polarizing effects of a suffering or an elated, blissful state that you find that center point. You have to create homeostasis, and that's the human condition to the human being. That's the fun part, I think. You're Sherlock to your Watson.
Absolutely, yes. No, I've been working as a spirit talker for probably over 25 years now. Not like completely professional, probably for the last 13 years, maybe 14 years professionally, where I've had to kind of like, this is all I've been able to do. And then since that time of embracing all that, because of fear, maybe there was a lot of blocks in my life because I wasn't stepping into this role or this connection more fully. I knew spirit always wanted me to and had encouraged me to, but again, the human egotistical mind sometimes is a big block for us all. And when I did, it's just everything just started to align. The right people showed up, the right conversations. I never looked for things out in life; they just come to me. And I think, they can only happen if it's been divinely like conspired. And I'll tell you a story, because in Indigenous teachings we teach with stories, right? So this is kind of more not ancient wisdom, but it's still ancient wisdom that is mixed in with today's modern day living, let's say. Way back, I remember I used to, when I did this work very early on, I worked at the office furniture company. It was called Hayworth. I made office furniture. I physically did wood cutting and things like that. Eventually worked my way into AutoCAD and bills of materials. So not like really like spiritual type of work. Although if you're mindful when you do it, it can be spiritual. And that's kind of what happened was I started to really step into doing sessions or readings, and I had this is pre-Facebook, this is pre everything, in the world. So to kind of date me a bit, it was actually around 2003 where this story takes place. And the reason is so that's like 22 years ago. And so I had this rudimentary website with my website, shawn-leonard.com, which I still have till today. And I had a program that I used back in the day. It was called Microsoft Front Page. And I used that program to create my website, which was my first website. And so I had this website, and computers were kind of like new back then. They didn't work super great. There was computers when I was young, but not to the degree that as we got older, and there was like the World Wide Web, etc. But I created a website, and I borrowed the program from a fellow named Conrad. Conrad Kardashian is a guy I used to work with, and he left the company and he went off to start his own company to create, do house renos and things like that. And I don't remember what his company was called, but one day I got up and I realized that my computer was not going to work very much longer. And I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but it started glitching, and if you ever heard of the phrase black screen of death, well, I knew it was coming. I could tell my computer was acting in such a strange way because they didn't make them as great back in the day as they do today, because they were very kind of new. And sure enough, I tell my wife, I said, listen, I'm going to need to buy myself a new computer, right? And she says, well, we can't really afford one. This, $700, what like a basic computer back in the day cost, was a lot of money for me and my family. And she goes, well, you try and fix the one you have. And so that night it did crash. The black screen of death happened. There was nothing. It was just like, there was no power, no nothing. It was just gone. And so she said, okay, well, you can go buy your computer. I buy my computer. I get home. I'm really happy because now I've got a newer version, faster computer. Because back in the day, when you got a new computer, it was always like so amazing when you got something that was a little bit quicker because they were so slow, right? So it's like, wow, this has got like this many megahertz or whatever, RAM drive in it. It was just like super. It was way quicker. I turned it on. I signed in, and this is where even back when I was in the day, even to answer your email, you had to have a program. You couldn't go online and go to Hotmail or Gmail or anything like that. You actually, and it came when Microsoft Office came with the program Outlook that was on the computer, and you had to have a POP3 server thing to kind of sign in, which was all bundled together with Microsoft FrontPage 2003. So I turned on my computer. I'm so happy, but what I didn't remember was I don't really own that program. I borrowed it from my friend Conrad. Now I'm living in Calgary of 1 million+ people, right? And which is a fairly big city. And Conrad has left the company that I work for. And I'm trying to explain to my wife, hey, I'm going to need a new program for my computer now. She goes, well, you just bought a $700 computer. Like, where do you think we're going to get the money for a $700 program? I'm like, I don't know, but I really need it. She goes, wait, I know you didn't buy it. So where did you get it? I said, well, I got it from Conrad. She goes, well, you better find Conrad because you're not spending any more money on stuff for your computer in your business. And I'm like, okay. So I searched everywhere. And back, we didn't have like 411 or anything like that online. It was like yellow pages, white pages. Here I'm flipping through looking for Conrad Kardashian. I'm looking for a company that does construction that maybe has his name in it. And, and he did not, I couldn't find him. I could not find him. So I sat there and I had a conversation, let's call it, with my ancestors or my guides or my people. And you could call it a ceremony. I sat there and I had a conversation heart to heart and clearly as I could. I said, listen, spirit team, my guides, my ancestors, I really need some help. I tell them exactly what my problem is. And I'm sure you all know what's going on with me, but I need to get a hold of Conrad. And I don't know how you're going to kind of orchestrate this, but I need him fast because I need this program. If you want me to do this work and you want to help me to do this work, then you're going to have to find a way to get me to contact Conrad. So this was Saturday. And so anyway, I had to give up on the whole idea of finding Conrad. So Sunday, Saturday night, I call my brother and I say, my brother's name is James. I said, James, I'm going outside to work on my fence because we just bought a new house in Calgary, in the northeast of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I'm building this fence, but I need to hang the front gates. So I got all the gates built. I've got the hinges attached, but I need somebody to hold it while I put the hinges on the fence post because it's quite heavy and I'm going to have trouble doing it myself. And my brother says, well, I'm going out drinking with the boys tonight, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it there. I said, well, I'm sure you can be there by 10, And he goes, well, I'll do my best. I'm not making any promises, but I'll be there, he said. So anyway, 10, I'm out there 9:45, 10:15, 10:30. I'm like, okay, he's not coming. So I decide I have to figure out ingeniously how I can take this gate, wedge it up on 2x4s, and have it hang there in such a way that I could attach the hinges and have it level and make it attached to the latch and all this. So I'm there out doing that. And then a guy pulls up in front of my house and beeps his horn. And he goes, excuse me, sir, can I ask you for some directions? I'm lost. And I turn around, it was Conrad. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing here, Conrad? He goes, I just got a call this morning about puppies up in this neighborhood. And I know this is the address, but I can't really find it. Can you maybe give me some direction? He's like, how you doing, by the way? I'm like, that is crazy, Conrad. Like, where are you living? I tried looking for you yesterday. Like, I looked everywhere. He goes, well, I live out in Black Diamond, which is outside of Calgary. And my company's called this. I'm like, I couldn't find you for the life of me. And you know what? I said, if anybody says you're guided by a bad source, you're not. You're guided obviously by a good source. And I said, because I was asking the spirit world, my ancestors, my guides, my people, and he knows who I am and what I do. I've done a reading for him in the past. I said, I was asking for you to contact you, and here you are, show up in front of my house. So you have to kind of think about it like this. Like all the things that sometimes we think are going wrong, sometimes they're going right for you, so we just don't see it right away. My brother, I had to be doing a fence. My computer had to break. I needed the program. And my brother had not shown up because if he was, I would have had it done. I would have been back in the house. So I'm thankful for my brother not showing up. And he had to get a call for a puppy. In my neighborhood of 1 million+ people, like, what's the odds of all that coming together to make me connect to him the very next day? It was amazing. It was amazing. And so my life has been orchestrated as such, in such a purposeful and divine way, that things align for me like that many times, that I cannot see my life anything other than connected, and knowing that I'm heard and that people are listening to me. And whether it's like an Indigenous ceremony that you do traditionally, or if it's a personal ceremony that you do at home, where you just sit there and light a candle and maybe light some smudge, etc., and just call upon your ancestors to hear what you need to say, that's what I did. And many people, I think, and probably the premise of the story that I would share with people is, don't forget your ancestors. Don't forget your guides, your spirit people, your team that are with you. Indigenous people have been in ceremony with their ancestors forever. And it's we've lost our connection to some degree. And our ancestors, you could call source, you could call it creator, you can call it God, you can call it whatever. There is no really wrong answer. In Indigenous teachings, there's no place that creator is not. We have a word in Mi'kmaq where we say Emsit Nogama, which means all my relations. And when we speak of all my relations, we speak about grandfather rocks, grandfather sun, grandmother moon, grandfather sky, mother earth. The creatures within the sea, the land walkers, the insects that crawl within mother earth, the plant nation, the mineral nation. There's no space that the creator is not. And when you start to have a relationship and connection to that consciousness that is everywhere, not in a man on a throne in the sky, just one person. And I know that's what you spoke of, Joshua. I know that's what he embodied, and that's what he tried to teach too, because he says, me and my Father are one. And we say the same thing, me and my creator are one. I am source. And that's the truth of it. We're literally all stardust that is manifest in the physical, in our individual ways of being within this world, whether you're the water, the trees, the air, there's a consciousness within everything. And many people have forgotten our connection to it all. And I think it's time that and I know a lot of people, church or religion or, some type of faith like that speaks to them, and that's great. But think broader, there's good teachings in all things, but don't forget about this teaching, that you and your Father are one. And your father, your mother, the universe. I mean, you're scientifically created from the dust of stars. You are light. You were light. You were always light. You will always be light. The sense of that conscious light that is emanating from within this body, is your spirit. You could call it an orb of light or whatever you choose, but it is there. It emanates in this form for a length of time, and it's probably emanated through many forms, maybe even many creatures. I'm not 100% sure of that, but what I am sure is that I lived many times, and I know me and my source are one. There's no space that the creator is not. And I speak with my source. I speak to my source. We are connected, and I do it from an intellectual and a heart-centered space. And it's the culmination of that masculinity and femininity that exists within us, the intellect and the emotion, that balances all things out, the yin, the yang. And it's not, there's no place that it is not. In your animals, and I have a new book out, and maybe I'll bring this up. I have a new book out called Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals. And they're your ancestors too. How many people, and yourself, I see that you have a dragon behind you, San. And I think that's amazing. They, animals carry energy, and they can bring messages. They're our ancestors. They've walked on this earth maybe even before humans have, and have evolved. And we've evolved from the stars themselves. And there's many star beings out there, and we perhaps even lived in other worlds. I strongly feel this. And we're going to evolve beyond this world and continue. But for now, let's be the greatest spirit that we can be, connected to our ancestors. And I've got some amazing stories too about, spirit animals and messages of where they've come to kind of give me messages or help me or guide me or even protect me sometimes in some energetic way when I didn't know something was coming. But they are messengers. And maybe I should have let you ask a question, because I can just sit here and just, I'm one of those guys that just talk.
You make it very easy for me.
Well,
But,
good.
I mean,
But
it's you are just an incredible emanation of divinity that I'm so grateful for, because this is part of who we really are when we get down to the brass tacks. Shout out to my great grandmother, who's such an incredible support and ambassador to my experience, and has been since she passed away when I was 18. And what an incredible relationship we continue to have, knowing that that bridge has never been broken, and it only gets stronger as part of that emanated self. But you have that state where within Taoism we refer to magic as one of the most potent relationships, which is a Tao Fu, which is a Taoist magic that we speak of. And so when we go deep into storytelling, the most potent vehicle for that incantation is fueled by the relationship with what we refer to as the primordial mother, the Wu Ji. And that is a basically the unification of yin and yang, the ability to basically create immortality, crystallize it in the material. That is when you have arrived through the passage, the rite of passage that you have as a seeker. An initiate and recipient are two of the same. And then when you experience that, all of a sudden, we refer to that as Wu Wei, which is, synchronistic, serendipitous moments become just the regular programming, because your participation is never required to be and refer to yourself as holiness. The holy stream comes from recognizing that you are not part of the equation. And then people's minds just get a little blown by that, instead of recognizing that you can have your cake and eat it. The personality is another reference point, another blossoming petal from the sacred infinite flower we refer to. And that is also another iteration of self. Everything is part of you, and then you are separate, but you are complete. All of this stuff is where people get a little tongue twisted and mind conditioned to believe that that's not possible, which sort of falls into an indoctrinated sort of hierarchy where many people suffer. And I think you referred to religion. I'm a little biased. I'm a Taoist ordained in 2 lineages of Taoism, and I have my name carved into monasteries in China. I enjoy religion. I enjoy the path of finding yourself through the dialogue to the monologue, because as you refer to it, you have all these different spirits. We have infinite amount of gods that are emanations of self, and refer to that dialogue is really returned to the monologue, which is the primordial mother. So it works itself out, even if you're stuck in a snag where you believe that the only truth, the absolute truth, is this very state that you're in. That is okay for now, because you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. And as you continue to absorb the riches, as we refer to it, you will find that, guess what? We are two of the same. And that as you move through from a dualistic to centric to non-centric moment, that center point is a recognized state where you're all things and nothing at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's where people get a little tongue twisted, they get a little distorted. And that's the beauty of storytelling, because that's where you take that charge. We refer to this within Taoism as the rhapsody to the remedy. And you capture that within the poetic flow of the
Mhm.
words. And
Yeah.
that's where storytelling becomes really, really the most important thing, because you are magical, you are all knowing, you are holy, and that wisdom will show through in servitude and selflessness. That's when you don't have to fight it. No longer is the narrative of the personality attempting to manipulate. It will take its place as another blossoming petal from the flower and return you to that holy stream. And many people get a little fixated. It's like when I teach people internal alchemy, this is the same. The fault is of no one, yet it will come in the form of your human condition, which you will perceive as a deficiency. It's like part of that recognizing that alchemical process is unifying things, is being able to pull at that tapestry and alter the material at will, is not something from an egoic mastermind diabolical state. Now, when you recognize that all is one, one is all, you're not calling on something that's in between, because the animation is the very mind that you think it, and it becomes realized, recognized, transformed, transmuted. But there is a processes, there's a method within Taoist alchemy. And as you refer to the ancient path of the indigenous practices, as I teach the same thing and have for, I don't know whether you've heard of a guy have you heard of, do you know Lee Carroll? Lee Carroll, the
It sounds familiar.
Cryon, the channeler?
No, I
Lee.
have not heard that. No.
Oh, Cryon. Oh, anyway, I was having this conversation with him and his wife, and he's been channeling for, almost 40 years. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've done this for a long time. He goes, well, when did all this really start? I'm like, I was 17. It was like back in like 87. And it's like this has been going on. And when do you recognize? You've been telling this audience the whole time, I keep picking up nuggets. It's never too late, never too soon. You recognize you're always getting these messages. And I think that's one of the most profound parts of your story and your storytelling, is being able to let people hear the truth, that what is possible, and how you've transformed things, and what you've done once you started truly listening to as you refer to your spirit guides, going, hey, come back into the seat of knowing that wisdom is here for everybody. Share it with this version of humanity right now, this emanated self, and let them grow with the wisdom that you share. Let them heal. Let them return to holiness. Amen to that, brother. No, I'm sorry.
I'll say Mzet Nogama, which means all my relations. Yes. Same thing. Just a different thought around it, I guess. But that's how we usually enter our ceremonies and enter ceremonies in Mi'kmaq or Indigenous culture. We always say all my relations. And it's to remember that connection to all things, that we're one with all things, but there's nothing that we're separate from, which includes the consciousness of spirit, the great spirit, the creator, Gazulk, Niskan, which is grandfather, son, etc. So,
and that you refer to different spirits, and this
well,
is
spirit, it's all spirits are like, we're a spirit, right? We're an individual. Like, I mean, we're all like, we think we're not in the ocean anymore. We're all kind of drops of the water from the ocean, experiencing itself within the world, thinking that we're no longer the ocean, which is silliness. And it's impossible to be separate from the very thing that you are. You've always been connected. I mean, science today might say, well, there's quantum entanglement, right? And we can see that on a biogenetically connected way, that things are entangled at a vast distance and it's faster than the speed of light. It's like, and then they say, well, there's nothing can travel to this faster than the speed of light. Well, that's not true. That's a belief that you have. I mean, quantum entanglement is absolutely instantaneous. And and it doesn't matter the distance from which it travels or how far it is away, it's connected. And if you're made of the universe, and the universe has consciousness, and if you're the dust of stars that have come and gone like several trillion times, then you still are the stars within the universe. You're not separate from them. You're not they're not far away. They're still interconnected to your ancestors within this planetary system, but also the planetary systems of many other suns and stars within the universe itself, and maybe even the multi-universe, I believe, because they're even thinking now or contemplating that, well, our universe might be just existing within a black hole, for God's sakes. And there's other massive universes beyond ours even in itself. And I think that's more probably the truth of it all. It's bigger than we can think. And there is no end. There was never a beginning. It's just an evolution. And we're still in we're constantly becoming the new, or the self-realized creation every moment. It's not like something that happened once and stopped happening. And it's happening. Creation is happening every like every moment of now.
The parallels are mind-boggling.
Yes.
We refer to that as the great bellows.
Yeah.
So everything is contracting and expanding at the same time. We're all things and nothing at the same time. The trilogy, the trinity that we refer to within Taoism is creation, completion, and then rebirth. This is constant. This is a constant. Now, your entry into that, like Luke Skywalker heading towards that Death Star, that moment of synergy where you make that one pop shot that recognizes that you are everything, is part of that journey. You'll show up to your Watson, from human condition through the labyrinth of the finite mind to the other side as your human beingness. Mm-hmm. You find that through these practices. I think a big question and a lot of people in the audience will have is, well, how is that? Within Taoism, we use alchemy as direct evidence, experiential moments, repeatable abilities to concentrate this tapestry and alter it, manipulate it, and return it to whole at will. This is part of stepping past the psyche and going from, if you're thinking, you're not knowing, if you're knowing, you are feeling. The body is an emanated tuning fork that will show you evidence of the truth. So many people want to escape it. I mean, you and I have been doing communicating with this same path for so many decades. What I find perplexing is how people want to bypass the body as if it has no meaning, yet it is the avatar and the anchor to your experience as a spirit. Yeah. We refer to that as Shen. What do you do within your cultivational practices to help people understand that? Because that's a big fundamental problem. I get most of my students are already Brahmin, cosmic consciousness, recognized people that have spent decades transmitting and healing people, and then the hubcaps come off the wheels. And so what happens is I help them return to understanding that to have Imperium dominion over these 50 trillion cells that you refer to as the flesh and blood that looks back at you in the mirror, you must be able to synergize and actualize the energy potential. That without that, you are, the nomad, you're transitory, you're impermanent, when you are permanent, you're eternal, you're immortal. How does that happen? Because the inverted effect within Taoism starts to corrupt this avatar. And so things will become more evident. You can be really psychic, medium, channeler, all this kind of stuff. But what the actual result is a corruption, and mortality is inevitable. And so mortality will show itself through the body's diminished return. It cannot hold that resonance because it's not referred to as whole. And when you can't condition it, you will see the evidence that being intuitive is powerful, yet the side effects are always the same. It shows through the body. Now, once you recognize you can contain what we refer to as the Jing, which is the constitution of this flesh, you actualize it through Qi and Shen, which is the spirit. So when those three are aligned, immortality is crystallized in the material. Now you get down with it. Now you can channel all day long, heal all day long, and you don't feel tapped out as if a succubus is drawing from the body. Something is drawing from your center point, and this is a common thing for healers. What have you noticed through your own journeys?
Well, I notice, I mean, for me, I mean, my body will get tired. I mean, I'm still human in human condition in the physical sense. That doesn't
Mhm,
mean my spirit ever gets tired, because it doesn't.
mhm,
But, in relation to, you know, spirit communication, I mean, the communication takes place through my spirit as opposed to my body. I may express what is being said, seen, felt, heard, sensed in multitudes of ways from spirit, but it's really coming through spirit to spirit,
mm,
from there. And, and something, they still have voices. I still record spirits sometimes. I have all kinds of recordings of spirits that have talked to me over the years. I mean, there's still, um, there's a even though telepathy exists, there's still the human understanding of like how communicating through words sometimes is needed. So they will speak words to me, and give me new concepts, new ideas, or new thoughts about things, and or direction, or let me know they're even protecting me at different times when I feel like, when I don't think I'm in over my head, but they feel like I might be. But they're definitely helping me and supporting me. They're, just like all family would, because we are all family. There's no connection between us. We're all, whether you come from the Caucasian people, or from the yellow people of Asia, or the red people, or the black people, or a mixture of some of them all. I mean, we're all one people. We're all family. We're all brothers and sisters, with the hopes of unification, I guess, to some point of, and we're going to get there eventually. It just takes a long time, that we all support each other and help each other and care for each other, just like Mother Earth does. Mother Earth doesn't, support herself and have a hurricane, thinking that somehow I'm hurting myself in another part of the world. That things are needed for cleansing and shifting and changing, but we as people in spirit, support each other in the grandest ways. And even my understanding is that there's even multitudes of beings from other worlds that work with us as well. And so our ancestors transcend the human condition, and that's why I speak about, or talk about, the animal nation and the different medicines that they offer us or can bring to us. And for me, my name is White Eagle Spirit Talker. I'm a Mi'kmaq spirit talker, psychic medium. In my language, it'd be Wabak Gipu Agudamajic Jigma Hamajic, which means White Eagle Spirit Talker. And my elders would say, well, Shawn, you have to make sure you say your name in your native language, because that's really where the name originates from. And then it's expressed, through English as a secondary way of like identification. But spirit animals, as I was talking about in my book, you know and in Indigenous culture, one of the things we do is we have a gathering, right? We gather as people, and we celebrate that gathering through song and dance and ceremony, which is a rejuvenation, a connection, and a healing that takes place. And we may embody the spirit of the wolf, or embody the spirit of the bear, because that may be your clan, which literally in Indigenous culture, clans are. We didn't have last names back in the day, so it would be Shawn of the Bear Clan, because if you're in the Bear Clan, you didn't hook up with other people in the Bear Clan. Just we kind of knew that that it was good to kind of be good genetically to help the well-being and health of our people and our society as a nation. But when we embody the medicine, let's say that through life, when we're approaching different things, or we're facing different things, we could call upon the particular, let's call essence of an animal, to kind of help us and work with us or guide us or support us, just like an ancestor would, or our family. So I'm very deeply connected to the eagle, because my name is White Eagle Spirit Talker. But I've been gifted, through different elders and ceremonies, etc., different parts of the medicines that would be from an eagle, like an eagle head, or an eagle wing, or an eagle claw, things like that I carry as like my medicine bag. But also, you can call upon the spirit of the animals, and sometimes those spirits of the animals will let you know they're around. And in Indigenous culture, we have a thing we call the seven grandfather teachings, which are that embody different aspects of medicines or essences, let's say, of these animals that they carry, like a wolf for humility, truth for turtle, or bravery for bear, or respect buffalo, wisdom beaver, love eagle, and honesty, saw bear, Bigfoot, which is also like an indigenous creature that has existed within the world. And each of these animals carry different medicines. And I'll tell you a story about a bear, because again, teaching through stories, it's the indigenous way, right? So I didn't know, even though my clan is the Bear Clan, and I come from the Bear Nation, as my grandmama and my elders and my chief had told me, but I didn't really know if that medicine was really connected to me in some way, even though it's my clan. It doesn't mean that if you have a clan, that it means that that medicine is one of your totems. But one night I had a dream where I was in a field, and sometimes we face things that we don't know we're going to be facing yet. And so I had these 7 shadows that were chasing me through the field. Very symbolic, right? So I'm running through this field knowing that these shadow people that seemed like humans of some sort, but I couldn't quite make out who they were had intention to do me some type of harm. So I ran as fast and as hard as I could through the field, away from these 7 shadow people. Now, ironically, something I didn't expect was 7 white polar bears would walk out of the forest, which I thought was odd in itself, because polar bears don't really hang out in the forest. They're from like the up north where it's all white in winter, so they shouldn't be in the forest, but yet they had shown up. And I'm thinking, because I became conscious in this dream of what was happening, and I'm like, oh my God, not only now do I have to outrun 7 shadow people that are trying to hurt me, I have to outrun 7 polar bears, and why are these polar bears here in the first place? So I run as fast as I can towards the shadows, thinking, well, maybe I will outrun them going the other way. And I could not. So I had to surrender. In the middle of the field, got on my knees, and I waited for the 7 polar bears that were running towards me to devour me. And I accepted the fact that this was going to happen, but it didn't. All 7 polar bears ran past me. And each of the shadows, each polar bear would pounce upon. And then the shadows that were there to do me harm had disintegrated. They didn't really eat them. They just kind of dissolved and disappeared. And then all 7 polar bears turned around, looked at me, and then walked together into one great bear. And then I woke up. And I said, that polar bear wasn't there to hurt me. The polar bear was there to help me, to protect me, to keep me safe. And then shortly after, and there's a backstory that's not necessarily in the book, because I put this story in there a little bit differently. But I had gotten sued by a family of 7. And I didn't realize this at that time. And it was because I was originally way back in the day working on a book, and I had a young girl who was working with me, and she wrote some chapters for me that I didn't use and I didn't like. So I said, okay, we're going to end this relationship and we're going to move on. And, she threatened me with some legal fees and stuff like that after that. But I'm like, well, I'll pay you what you feel like you need for this, but that's about it. I can't move forward with you. So we're done. And I sent her a letter. So after the fact, after this dream, I get a letter from a lawyer saying that somebody is suing me for half of my income for the rest of my life, because that's what I'd promised to give this young girl for writing a few chapters of a book that was never published, which is silly, and which could cause turmoil, drama, issues in life. And, certain things people are going to, people are teachers for us, right? People are coming into our life to teach us different things. And, I had to accept the fact where I was, just like I was in the field. I had to accept and I had to trust, and knowing that the polar bear was going to help me. I don't know how. So I did ask and request the spirit world, to my ancestors, even the great white bear, Wabak Muan, to send me something to kind of verify and validate this in the physical sense, that I knew that the medicine of this great white bear was connected to me, and I wanted to carry that medicine. And I asked the bear if he would send me a claw somehow. And I don't know how, very much like the comrade story, right? I just put it out there. I had my personal ceremony connection. I knew that the bear, the great white bear, had connected to me in a spiritual way to let me know that it was helping me and guiding me, supporting me, protecting me. And, what better bear to do it than one that endures harsh conditions, What bear greater than to one that walks sometimes alone or is isolated and has a very kind of like hard life, even in these times, especially these times, more so than the past. So months had gone by, and I received a little package in the mail from a lady named Barbara Kent Bishop from Newfoundland. And she wrote a letter, and in the letter, with this little box that it was wrapped in red cloth, which is kind of traditional Indigenous way to receive gifts. She goes, I was just in Labrador, Newfoundland, northern Labrador, and I connected to a few Inuk elders there. And I met with a few, and I sat with one, and he gifted me two things. He gifted me two polar bear claws. And the elder told me that this one was for me, and I was meant to carry this medicine myself. But then he explained to me that this other claw was meant for another person. And you have to be mindful and ask the Great Spirit to guide you as to the person you're meant to give this to. But you're meant to give this other one away. So she went home and she said, oh, I thought about it like 5 minutes, she said, but because I knew instantly that I had to give this to you. So she sent me the letter and the little package, and I opened it up. And today, which I'm not even wearing it today, it's upstairs. I usually wear it, but I didn't put it on. But I have my polar bear claw. And I wear it every day. Apparently, after showering today, I did not put it on. And that's okay. But the story gets cooler in a sense, because not only did that one polar bear claw show up, another lady very shortly after came and brought me a piece of polar bear fur and said, I think I should offer you this for your smudge bowl, to put your smudge bowl on. She does part-time taxidermy, and she says, I had a little bit left over from a polar bear rug that I was working on, and I thought I would offer it to you. Very shortly after that, another person contacted me and said, listen, Shawn, me and my mom would really appreciate a session from you. And we know that you don't do them anymore because of your busyness of life and such. But, I have this old polar bear rug in my closet. If I offer it to you, would you consider doing a reading for me and my mom? I'm like, let me check my calendar. Yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah. And then I got another claw. And then recently, somebody just sent me this as I was writing the book. It's an old Indigenous mask with a face on it, and the hair is polar bear fur. And then last but not least, I'm just going to take you off here. The Finnegan family, if you can see over beyond my lights, there's a whole polar bear rug there with the head, the claws, and everything attached. And she messaged me and said, listen, Shawn, and this is while I was writing my book, Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals. She said, my father-in-law just recently passed away, and we found that we knew that he had this old polar bear rug that he got from an Inuk elder from the Northwest Territories 50 years ago. And we don't know what to do with it. And we know we don't want it, but we need to know that we're gifting it to somebody that is going to honor this medicine. Would you accept this? I'm like, yes, I will accept it. I'll honor it. I'll keep it. I'll use it in my ceremonies, etc. So up to now, I have 6 different parts of bears since that day of speaking, where the polar bear had connected to me. I dreamt of 7, and I knew there's one more. And I feel like all of these ancestors of the great white bear have always known who I have been, and they've always been walking with me through life, whether I've been aware of it or not. And they've given me a gift of each of themselves so that I can carry that medicine through life, so that I can share teachings of the great animal nation and how they are our ancestors and walk with us too.
I mean, the relationship, the intimate relationship with all these variables, these different facets of the same diamond are so potent, and they're interchangeable between rites of passage. Specifically in Taoism, we have all our magical tools and such, command blocks, and our relationship with all these spirits. It's just so so fascinating because it always transmutes and returns back to, as we refer to within Taoism, all streams return back to the ocean.
Yeah.
There's no interception. There's no divergence. It's in a convergence of such where you recognize you're everything and nothing at the same time. And the spirit world, as we refer to it, as a teacher, you are a wizard, you are a spirit teacher, communicator, you're the bridge between the realm of man and the spirit world. This is part of the indigenous teachings.
Yeah.
We,
I mean,
we
we have ceremonies, particularly to connect the spirit, to connect to our ancestors, to, allow them to communicate to us, because it's not that they're not always trying to communicate to us, just that most of the time many of us aren't listening. So we have a ceremony to actually create space to listen and create stillness so that we can hear, that we can receive, that we can be open. Because if like if you're a closed flower that hasn't blossomed yet, then it's not until you open and receive the sunshine that it's all going to hit you. It's going to come to you, that wisdom, that knowledge, then, as such. So it's, there's a part of us that the unfoldment, the opening, the connecting and the understanding that you are divine, but the divine is all around you and with you. It's an amazing gift of life that we've been given. And,
so
and, and, and even the suffering has been a gift.
well, it's so necessary. I mean, that's why I love the ritual, which is so ancient.
Yeah.
It's so instinctual. It's so true to form that requires none. And then when you recognize that, all of a sudden everything synchronizes. Everything is so clear. I think the level of conditioning is necessary, where the development skills start to be very clear when you actualize every petal of the sacred infinite flower, as we refer to it. All the levels of awareness become as one. The sensory perception is clear. So when I communicate with my teachers, the dialogue to the monologue, as I see them here, they're sitting around the table, they're as clear as they are. I see you, I can hear them as clear as I hear you, and I'm not 3 cents short of $1, as Croc and Tub would call. Back in the day in Miami Vice, that would be the left your groceries at the meat market. You know what I'm saying? I'm completely coherent and at one. And, it is. It's funny because, these days I think you would be able to talk to this, and I share with it all the time. One of the most ancient practices that I've been performing since I left the monastery is the simplicity of exorcisms. And how deep they run and how important they really are for someone's remembrance. Yet 30 years ago, it would have been a psychotic episode where someone was diagnosed with a personality disorder. I teach them how to have control of the operating system and then exercise and dissolve anything that would be referred to as a succubus, feeding from a multiple stream. That exorcism today would not even be intercepted as such, because that person would wake up and say they're channeling the Palladians and open up a YouTube channel and get 100,000 followers. It's a different, but this is the issue, and I think you understand this. If you don't pour the foundation, the effects are this. Fearlessness doesn't come from thought. So fearlessness, to actually obtain the actual essence of oneness, you can't be in a process of saying, I am fearless, because it's not on the menu. Where this is where many people will walk this path that we're both experiencing, and it's more a dancing in the shadows in the corners of their mind, where they're having a Robert De Niro moment. Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? They're rehearsing their level of power that is still not actualized, because they haven't got the evidence to cross over from a belief system to a knowing to wisdom. And that's a very tricky part, because it will always end in the polarizing effects of yin and yang. That symbiosis will eventually consume you. You'll consume yourself, because the body has to be actualized for you to maintain it, because it's still part of the equation. They're still processing with mental constructs, with psychological acuity. This is a problem. And it only becomes a problem because you say it is. But that fearlessness requires absence of the word. And most people, they don't fundamentally actualize that, which creates roadblocks. And, the human body can be an avatar and a throwaway. Many of my Buddhist monastic friends just look for the dukkha. They're not interested in anything else. They're like saying, I don't care about the energy and all this other fluffy stuff that you get into, the somatic, kinesthetic arousal of that power. I don't care. All I want to do is find the dukkha, diffuse the dukkha, and sit quietly with myself, blending back into the void. And so everyone has their own path. Right. But, that part of it is really, in my opinion, you want to maximize. And like everything else, yin is really just the absorption of all colors. Yang is the emission of all colors. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find the center point. That vesicle, once you walk through it, you will be actualized. And I think that's true, speaks true to the Indigenous training and practices that you share. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, we, like you said, the source or the light that's within you, or is there, and when you become aware of it, you're an expression of the light itself. And there's so many expressions of light, though, and I think we're human. We're meant to be in the human condition somewhat, and to live in it and express in the greatest ways that we can through this experience. But the human condition can experience so many things that are amazing. And, all the things that we think we need are always around us. I mean, the medicines from animals, from the medicines that we carry from our divine connection, to the medicines that maybe our body needs that we need to ingest through tea, through different medicines that we may find out in the forest. Everything that we need has always been with us and around us.
Osmosis. There you go. This is Tibetan gold tip red tea with a splash of Indian rose petals from India. Yeah. And we refer to that as the immortal elixir.
Yeah. So it's a combination of things that you put together because of intention. It's a ceremony of sorts, even drinking your tea, it's a ceremony.
1000%. It's the most sacred part of union is the master of ceremonies is the self.
So in each ceremony for your tea has an intention, like you were saying, the intention for that tea with the blend that it is. But you are a blend of medicines within the world. And you pick those medicines. You choose to express and be and exemplify in the most grandest ways that you potentially and possibly can those medicines through yourself. It doesn't mean that it has to be like the gold leaf or the birch bark or the cedar sap, but there's medicines that exist within all of us. And all of the ancestors of the world are helping you, are in unison with you. They're not in conflict. They want you to find yourself and express yourself as greatly as you can, as greatly as they do as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the transmutation is when you have arrived. It's not a fleeting moment or a psychotic episode. Your ability to transmute and return everything to whole is the said evidence of your Sherlock to your Watson. Elementary, my dear Watson.
Yes, exactly.
When that actualizes, all of a sudden, it's like just as your incredible stories of acknowledging that truth always remains the same, regardless of your futile participatory ego state cannot fight the true nature of who you are. That is the truth, is that your absence is the best thing that could happen to you.
Or observe your absence, yes.
Well, even beyond that is really where the animation becomes so clear. I think that, healing, which is one of my favorite things to do. It's my favorite. I love to watch healing, physical healing. That's been an ongoing exploration for myself for over 36 years, is really seeing it though. This is like, it goes beyond it scratches the record. You want to see and transmute something that is paranormal, supernatural, supernormal, superhuman. And that's something that most of my parapsychologist friends like to measure these things through recipes of zeros and ones, through some type of like scientific based evidence. And, precognition and psychokinesis are fundamentals. You and I have been playing in that little dance throughout this whole experience. I always get high as a kite, enjoying the union where you feel into what is an expression of self. That energy never leaves you. And I've been enjoying this the whole time. It's like, I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for this conversation. It was a good conversation today. I think it's Tuesday today, but I don't know when the podcast will come out. But today it was a good day for this conversation.
Well, what's most important is I want everyone that listens to this podcast, students, disciples, 126s, and subscribers. The 126 part is just an app I developed, but I want them to go out and find your teaching, which you're through your own admission, you don't do one-on-ones anymore.
No, I don't. I do like I have a course called Spirit Talker Tribe where I take people through a year-long process of understanding what it's like to understand, to raise your energy, because there's an aspect of like raising one's awareness and self energy to make connections, to bridge the connections, to make connections to your ancestors, your spirit guides, your animal totems, etc. And then work with spirit through conscious communication that takes place with us all, and then creating space to understand and learning how the multifaceted of way that spirit can and does communicate with each of us. So that's my course. I'm an author, so you can always find me on my website, shawn-leonard.com. I'm a Hayos author. Actually, I have 2 books. Spirit Talker, which is here. Spirit Talker is my first book through Hayos Publishing, and this is my new one that's coming out right away. And I actually have a Wisdom of the Elders Oracle card deck too, which is via Hayos. And they're just life guidance things to kind of help people through life. It's not like tarot cards, anything like that. It's I have the 7 grandfather teachings in there. I have the 4 sacred medicines, and I teach about indigenous culture and some of our spiritual understandings in relation to different things. So it may help you walk through life in a greater and better way. And if it speaks to you, then check those things out. You can go to my website, shawn-leonard.com, and all the links that you can find for everything about me will be there. If you're looking to watch Spirit Talker, the TV show, Next Level Soul TV, Fossum, I think, is season 1, ap10lumi.ca within Canada. You can always watch season 5 is coming out October 22nd. And just check it out. And if it's something that interests you, then subscribe, click my website, add your email address, and stay in tune with things that I've got coming out in the future.
Amen to that, my brother. Amen.
Well, thank you.
And that's really, really amazing. I'm very grateful that you spent your time today sharing the inner teachings. And first and foremost, please go out and read Shawn's books and participate in watching all the material that he's putting out, because this is wisdom beyond wisdom. And this is how you find yourself, because you're here listening to this conversation and the emanation is resonating with you. So I'm grateful to the audience. I'm grateful for you sharing your time. Thank you again. And in closing, I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing. And I'll see you in the next one, guys.